and welcome to this week's episode of the Parent Pod, hosted here by Cape Cod Moms. Every week, we try and bring you some fun, some information, a little bit of joy and kindness where we pass it forward. And really, we're all about connecting and collaborating. We're bringing you different things that you may not be aware of, things that you can use, resources you can use, stories you can share. It's a little bit of everything, and it's fun. And so I hope the kids are in bed. Mine are in front of the screen. Lucky them that they don't get enough in front of school, but I guess that's what it is. So this hour's for you. Do what I do. Put the kids away. Get yourself a water, cocktail, whatever you need. And tonight, this 1 hour is all about you. So tonight, I'm really excited. We're going to be joined by guest JoJo Mikolazyk. I'm sorry, JoJo. When I bring her on, I'm going to apologize again. It's hard for me to repronounce that. But she is a local mom, and actually, I've met her in passing for the past couple of years through both the kids at different things like the chiropractor, the Waldorf school, things like that. But tonight, she's really into the health food, and she's also a recovery mom. And so tonight, we're going to hear about her journey and some of the things that we can do as moms instead of turning to different types of substances, including alcohol, to kind of alleviate that stress. So I'm really excited to bring her on. And we're also going to be awarding a kindness basket later tonight to someone lucky. So hopefully they're tuned in live to receive that. And if you are looking for ways to nominate a friend, submit questions to our audience, visit our link tree, which we share on our Facebook page and on our Instagram. So now I'm going to bring on JoJo, and I'm so excited. I hope you are excited too. And here she comes, my lovely desk. Hi, JoJo. How are you?
Hi, Amy. Thanks for having me.
It's so nice to see you. I haven't seen you in person in a while.
Thank God, Dr. Bob.
I know. So for everybody that I was just telling, so we've met in passing through Dr. Bob Mulcahy going to the chiropractor. He's amazing. We highly recommend him. And both our kids also went to karate together at one point with Sensei Burke in Falmouth at 7 Stars Academy, which was fantastic. And also she has a daughter who's at Waldorf School, which is one of my inspirations for my pet project right now. If people don't know, the Outdoor Classroom Project.
Yes.
So we have a lot in common.
So many connections.
I know. And sometimes things are just meant to be. Yeah. So I was really excited when I reached out to JoJo and asked her to come on. And she's actually going to come on about 2 different topics. And today we're starting with one. So I'm really excited for her to lend her expertise to our community, to myself, and to all of you. So let her introduce herself, tell you a quick little bit about herself, and we'll go from there.
Thank you, Amy. And I've told Amy this before, but to me, she's like a Cape Cod celebrity, and I'm really honored to be on the show. So I'm JoJo. I grew up in Boston. I've been on the Cape for almost 16 years. I've been in recovery 20 years. I met my husband, who's also in recovery, through mutual friends in recovery. So we're pretty insulated with a like-minded recovery community. I was 21 when I came to the Cape and met him. So I feel like my adult life has been, I'm a Cape native for my adult years, Cape pride. And so through my recovery journey, I worked with a lot of women in the early years of sponsoring, which we do in 12-step programs. And I sponsored a lot of women. And I felt called to work in the field, and I pursued college degrees in other things. I have a bachelor's in political science and philosophy, and it just wasn't the right fit. And finally, I did my master's in social work at Simmons, and it was like being home. It was just me. And I specialized in substance use and interpersonal trauma with mental health. So since then, I graduated in 2017. I interned at Gosnold and Herren Project, and I stayed on with Herren Project. And I've been able to work with literally hundreds of women and men in a coaching fashion, recovery related. We get into a lot of things, though. You know, sometimes people's priorities are reunification with their children or getting back their driver's license, or you know, so there's a lot of coaching that goes into a lot of different life areas. I also have my LCSW, and that's about me for bio.
So tell us a little bit about your journey with recovery and how it has impacted being a mom, because I think maybe I should lead with this. There's a big stigma when it comes to addiction and parenting, but especially addiction and motherhood, right?
Totally.
I mean, I think people sometimes they get the wrong idea, or you feel shut down because there is this stigma here. Like, you couldn't possibly be a good mother if you have this addiction problem.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not true. It's simply not true. And how do we get away from that? How does that narrative how do we work through that?
Yeah, I mean, it's so layered. Um, I'll talk through a couple different points that come up, but first, it's not true at all. I work with many mothers who sometimes just cry for the whole hour in my office because they miss their kids, or their kids have been taken away and they can't navigate the court system to even get a visit, or you know, show up with the proper paperwork. You know, so the lack of love isn't there. Addiction or alcoholism doesn't decrease your love. It decreases every emotion, because that's the point, to self-medicate, because reality is hard when we don't have the proper tools and coping skills. And those things often are supposed to be taught in childhood, and sometimes different milestones aren't met at the proper age. Sometimes there's trauma, sometimes there's grief, sometimes nothing has happened wrong, but that gene is triggered, and we are obsessive and compulsive, and it's substances. For some people, it's shopping or food or bad relationships. You know, there's many ways to distract ourselves.
So let's go back to this. Let's talk about a little bit what addiction is, because you hit some key points here. Because it's not just substance abuse, alcoholism. It could be shopping, gambling. It could be food.
Absolutely.
And people use it's an addiction, and they're using it to self-medicate. That's what I hear you saying,
Right.
to soothe, because they don't have those tools, like you
Yeah.
said.
100%. I mean, there's an unlimited things that we can abuse, right? Gambling. Um, and I believe for myself, it was because I felt that something was missing. There was a void. And it could be because, you know, lack of my mother being available to her substance use, um, rejection, abandonment, all these things that it's hard to grapple with as a child. And then for me, having that in my environment, and it was available and it was at my house, and the substances got worse each year. So my progression was pretty rapid. But for someone else, they might not pick up alcohol till 40 years old. Their kids are off to college, and you know, or whatever, and they're coping with empty nest syndrome, or you know, postpartum. So I feel like if the gene is there, it can be triggered at different times in life for different reasons. Um, there's not like a cookie cutter explanation or reason why it manifests itself when it does. It's different for everyone.
Yeah, and it's really stress and anxiety.
Mm,
You're making me think about all these things because I think about how, right now we talk about how resilient we are, right, with everything we're going through with the pandemic, and how resilient our children are.
yeah.
And that statement has really actually started to honestly bother me because I'm like, but if we're not giving them these other opportunities, if our parents are needing the resources right now to cope with the increasing anxiety, and we know the anxiety and stress level, especially in this community, is off the charts right now. I mean,
Yeah.
the waiting list for mental health counselors right now for our children alone is 4 to 6 months. 4 to 6 months. That's
Oh,
unacceptable in our community right now.
wow.
And we were already short on it anyway with access to quality mental health
Wow.
down to adults, not even children. I mean, think about that. And so we talk about how I worry that we are going to have a couple years of this and we're not going to give these kids and our parents the resources to cope with the situation. This is a long-term situation going on.
Mm.
I can't even imagine how it would feel to be in recovery, and then this wants to trigger me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like how do I'm eating more,
Mhm.
so I love food, and I'm emotionally I soothe with food, and
Yeah.
I'm aware of
And a lot of us, food was our first drug. A lot of us in the program will tell you that. I remember, and still to this day, Oreos are like nostalgic to me. And it's kind of like our family kind of, when we go up to my dad's, it's like we know we're going to have Oreos. We don't have them here in this house, but when we go up there. So I remember as a kid, going into his kitchen and trying to get like as many as I could in a my little thumb to finger, and hoping I could just my finger would just grow
that.
a
Yeah,
bit longer
I
so
do
I could
that too.
one more Oreo. And it was the whole ritual. It was the dunking and the milk and my certain way, and that was kind of like the beginning of numbing or just feeling the endorphins and the dopamine that I needed to get at that moment. Yeah.
It's crazy because I can totally relate to that. I still actually do that with work. I was doing that a lot in April. Okay,
I hear you.
I'm gonna own that one. I
Yeah.
way too many.
Right, that's another thing, and then it can go the other way. I mean, when I put down the substances, I was in a very disempowered position for the first few years being incarcerated, and so I substituted with eating disorders. It was either, it was anorexia for a while, and then it was bulimia, and then it was both. And, continuing, just because we put the substances down doesn't mean we've become well overnight, right? Those tools and behavior modifications, that takes years of work. If you want to get better, you have to put the work in. So continuing to not treat myself kindly and put my body through stress and different things to kind of be in control and to numb the really strong emotions out.
So one of the things too that can often be a trigger for people at some point is early first time mothers,
Mm-hmm.
and that early motherhood, especially when it's combined with postpartum.
Mm-hmm.
That can be very triggering for people. And it can also, as a new mom, you kind of miss your old life
Mm-hmm.
and you're being thrust into another. And that can perpetuate a cycle. And do you see some of that in your practice?
I do. I think right after the birth is a very fragile time. and for people in early recovery or in recovery, and if the support isn't there, if they don't continue their recovery formula, which what I call it. So, my formula is like helping others, my relationship with God, going to church, volunteering, showing up certain places that I'm of service. Fitness is huge, taking care of my nutrition. But that recovery formula at 20 years sober wasn't what it was in the beginning, right? It was go to a meeting every day, connect with my sponsor every day, be in therapy every week. It was very heavy on more treatment oriented than lifestyle oriented, right? Because I needed acute treatment on a daily basis. So your recovery formula is like X plus Y plus Z equals quality recovery. And that is a pivotal time right after having your child that you need to prioritize. But right, we have this culture and we have this society that's saying your baby has to come first no matter what. We know anything we put before our recovery, we will lose. And it's, I mean, the internal conflict is there. Support, connection. It's so easy to isolate because we have a baby and we have an excuse to not connect and to not show up, to not answer the phone. And isolation is like the nail in the coffin for us.
And it almost becomes like a easier. I mean, I remember that wanting, it became easier not to answer the phone. It became
Yeah,
easier not to,
justifiable.
right, because you're there with that baby. And I want to go back to what you said. You're right. The culture believes when the baby comes, everything is supposed to center around that baby, right? And I remember actually learning from, it was Lee Burwell in one of her parenting classes through Falmouth Hospital. She talked about and it was centered not around the kids, it was centered around the relationship as a couple and as a family. And it was really informative because she said, if we become egocentric around the child and we center the whole family unit around that. And that's not what it is. It needs to be about each of us individually and as a whole.
Yeah.
Because you really have to take care of yourself. I mean, that's straight across the board for anybody.
Yeah.
If you're not happy here or you're not well here,
Yeah.
then you can't be the best mom or dad that you
Sure.
can. And that has to come first every time.
Yeah.
There
has to be a balance eventually, right?
Right.
Any cup that we're pouring too much into, it's going to spill over there, and something's going to be empty. Or any relationship we're neglecting, we're not going to have that. If we want something to grow, we have to nurture that area.
Right.
You know, any first year of your first child, I only have one, is crazy. Mine was colic. We didn't even, we had no clue. We had no education on what the heck colic even was.
Yeah, nobody really tells you what it's really like, right?
So, I mean, it was crazy, and it was scary because you can't make this child stop screaming or crying. I mean, Kevin and I figured out a way. If we held her butt here and rested her back and neck here and did this like up and down kind of roller coaster feeling, she would just shut up. Like she would stop crying. And we would start out and we would be like, all right, we'll do like 10 or 15 minutes each and then pass it. And then we go down to like 5 minutes each. And then by the end, it was like, all right, 1 minute. And our arms were burning. But it was like the only way to get some peace, and you're desperate.
Right.
And this is us at 11 and 8 years sober, right? 9 years ago. That's us like pretty well. Still, biting each other's heads off at some points of the day.
Right.
Not getting sleep, irritable. needing space, needing a lot of space. Like, you just go, like, go
Just go
and
take a walk. Go fill the car.
drive and just get out of my
Whatever
house.
it takes.
Yeah. And I mean, eventually I stayed home with her for the first couple years, 2.5 years. And we chose that and we talked about that. And that's what we both wanted. But eventually I had to do something for me on a more, challenging level. So that's when I went back to school and I finished my bachelor's and continued on. And I found a great home daycare in Falmouth, Kathy Scala.
That's Heidi's sister. That's
Oh, and she
good
was
for you.
like my angel. I would ask her, like, you know, how do I potty train? Right? My mom passed when I was 21, substance related, and I would ask her, you know, what do I do if it's an ear infection, or how do I know? Or I had no shame. I just asked anything because my ego was gone. I just wanted to take care of this little child. So Miss Kathy was, you know, she's like our guardian angel. I still text her, you know, and she's been out of there for many years. But yeah, you know, so back to being in recovery and dealing with really big life changes and crises, you have to work that formula, you know, whatever that is to you. Some people, it's yoga and refuge recovery. There's so many different pathways to recovery now. Mine was very traditional 12-step by the book. Which I still think is, you know, if you want to do personal development and really dig deep, you do the steps. It hits on all these self-reflecting things that we wouldn't normally think of, like our relationship with our higher power, with our spiritual connection. What are my resentments and fears, and what triggers me? What was my part in those things, right? Sometimes it's everybody else's fault and we're the victim, and as long as we stay the victim, we're going to stay really sick. And then it goes into making amends and reconciling where we can, and then giving it back and helping others. You know, and through that, your character defects are highlighted, and you can choose to change those and grow and give them away and let them go. And they don't serve you anymore when you're sober. They're a disservice. You know, when you're out there and you're using substances, a lot of those behaviors are protective, and your ego is a defense, and it's protecting you from the pain and the trauma and whatever you have to do to use the way you want to use or drink the way you want to drink. But once you're sober, you don't need them anymore. You can kind of put them to bed.
I like how you put all that, because it's simply put, it's about having an honest conversation, basically, with who you are as a person.
Sure.
And taking accountability for all of it, the good, the bad, the ugly, and saying, all right, who am I?
Yeah.
Who am I? And accepting who you are,
Yeah.
so that you can grow.
Yeah.
You know? And I think that's really important. I think it's important for all of us to do.
Yeah.
Addiction is everywhere. It touches every single one of us, every family. Some in just very different ways, and it can be in the ways you least expect it sometimes.
Absolutely.
And so you talk a little bit about working the program and some tips. Are there things that, additionally, you talked a little bit about yoga, 12 steps. Are there other things that could prove helpful?
Absolutely.
Art therapy?
Oh, yeah. I mean, going to the chiropractor is part of my recovery formula, right? Keeping my body in alignment. If we have dis-ease anywhere, that can be a trigger. Pain can be a trigger. Ignoring a tooth, you know, having to go to the dentist, just basic self-care. acupuncture has proven incredible for people in early recovery. And someone who has a lot of research on that is a man by Bill Doherty, and he runs Recovery Without Walls. He's the founder of that. And he's been collecting research on women in early stages of recovery and detox in acupuncture.
Oh, wow.
He's provided, I mean, hundreds of women through Emerson House, through or RCI, a couple different facilities that are local, and he's brought them, invited them to his office in Homeport 2 days a week for free group acupuncture on a consistent weekly basis. And he's tracked their progress, decrease in anxiety, decrease in cravings, easy detox over some things like methadone, which can be a very rough detox. But, so there's a lot of people looking into ways that we can support people in recovery. When COVID hit, I mean, just Herren Project itself went from, I think, like 4 family support online groups, Zooms, which are totally free. They're on our family support page groups. And we went from like 4 to 17. So these are every day of the week, different facilitators, different topics, spousal, family. I think there's sibling, lots of family groups, grief. There's a couple grief groups, all recovery related, so that family can find that support. Because it's hard. It's right. It's not just the person trying to be in recovery or not in recovery who hasn't gotten there yet. It's the whole family. Like you said, it's affecting everybody, friends, coworkers. So they got up and running like 17 support groups, and we implemented a lot of extension coaching to our alumni at that time who had lost jobs and needed a little finances to fill in the blanks for a few weeks with their rent. So we reopened a lot of our old coaching clients, scholarships, and I mean, it was very busy for a lot of the first few months of quarantine, and it's still busy. And I think because of COVID and the meetings shutting down, we started nightly meetings every night at 7:30 that are still running every night of the week. Herren Project, open to the public. We have people that come in from California, Washington, Virginia, just all over the country. Different countries too, I guess, because it's an online Zoom and it's public. So a lot of good support has come out of it too.
That's one of the things that I've learned is, as bad as things have been and as disruptive as they've been, it's also brought about some of the best in some people, because people are coming together to try and they're encouraging others to seek support, supporting one another. They're finding ways to kind of adapt as best as we can. I mean, we're human beings. We're supposed to be social creatures. That's, our language and our social habits are what set us apart.
Yeah.
And, to have that kind of taken away, it's really tough. It's really tough. And I think it's been hard. It's been hard on a lot of people. So we talk about, how do we manage stress and cope better during this time, and what is most important? So, we kind of touched on that. It's focusing on yourself, recognizing things. If you're in recovery, recognizing those triggers, right? And knowing how to work the program.
And I also say too, if I feel some just not right, off, if I'm irritable, I always try to go back to the mind, body, spirit kind of format that a lot of 12-step programs will check in about. So what have you done for your mind, your body, and your spirit? And are those in alignment, and are they balanced? Are you like really heavy on just exercising and you're not, taking care of rest and reading a book, connecting with your family, maybe praying or meditating? Is it just all physical? If you're not kind of touching base with those 3 points, you're going to feel out of alignment. So that's another thing too that I often bring up to my clients is, okay, are you going for walks? Are you getting fresh air, sun? Right? We are living beings like the plants and animals, and we need sun and water and air.
This weekend will be perfect for it in the 60s. Get the vitamin D stat.
Right? Sometimes it's as simple as that. Sometimes it's just like dietary. Our gut health is connected to our mental health and our mood. So are you binging on sugar? Yeah, you're going to be really irritable, and have these mood crashes and stuff like that. Hey, Leona. Um, so, it's really kind of taking a look at the whole person, a holistic approach, mind, body, and spirit for us.
I think one of the most important things I'm hearing from you and what I've heard from others is that you talk about acupuncture, you talk about chiropractic, we talk about this holistic approach, nutrition. And for so long, we've kind of become a society where it's focused this pharmaceutical and let's quickly, easily solve it with something quick and easy. And you can't do that. We really need insurance companies to get on board. Like, I shouldn't just get 6 visits to the chiropractor a year covered, and I have some great insurance. I should be getting like 4 times a month appointments at the chiropractor covered. I could have acupuncture fully covered as many times as I want. I mean,
or as many times as the doctor
says you need.
Right?
Yeah.
That's prescribed.
Right. 100%. And why don't we look at those things first? That should be encouraging. I remember I got into a car accident years ago, and I was very frustrated with the insurance company because they're like, oh, yeah, just keep taking the medication. Just keep taking the medication. And that's one of the reasons I went to Dr. Bob. I was like, I don't want to take medication for this. I'm in pain, but they don't think I'm in pain unless I'm taking that. And what's wrong with them?
Right.
Because I should get to seek whatever type of care is best for me.
Right.
And I don't want to put that in my body.
Yeah.
And wouldn't you want people to seek less invasive care that in the long run is actually going to cost them less?
Yep.
Less money, because if you're treating holistically and along the way, you're going to have less health problems.
Yep.
I don't understand.
I refer all my local clients to Bill's acupuncture program and the local chiropractor that takes Mass Health on Dillingham Road. I'm so sorry. I always forget the name of the office, but because a lot of the women I get are on gabapentin for nerve pain, a huge physical consequence from heavy drug use is nerve damage. So, there's a lot of gabapentin and stuff. And the women who are brave and coachable, they take me up on that offer. They go to chiropractic once a week and they go to Bill's acupuncture and they start to come off their pain medication.
Wow.
So,
gabapentin, isn't that something that doctors prescribe children sometimes for like anxiety? And
I mean,
we just like blew my mind.
Go down a big rabbit hole.
Let's not go down that rabbit hole right
now. Get them early for customers for life. But That's for
Take
another.
note, parents.
That's
Take
another
note.
show topic.
But there's so many other options.
There are. There are, but they don't make as much money for big pharma and other. And
Like, that's what we really need to advocate for, I think,
yeah,
as parents, and is saying we want these things for ourselves, for our children. Like, we need to change that way of thinking.
absolutely. I'm for it. I mean, when I was going for my bachelor's, I was very motivated by the activism part of political science and in totally within the social work field. I protested GMOs and Monsanto way before people even knew or the labels were there. I was in Boston with Alana, and she was probably 3 or 4 years old. And she still remembers it to this day. And it's like, if we don't speak up, the status quo is just going to continue. So, and then one year I couldn't make it to Boston. I actually stood at the intersection of 151 and Sandwich Road by myself with a sign. And I remember Kevin's being like, "Can you wear a hood and sunglasses, like, so people can't see who you are?" And I was like, "No, I mean, I'll just be me. And if you know me, you know me, and that it wouldn't be odd to see me out there with a sign." But I got honks and I got thumbs up and I got a lot of like,
What are you talking about?
what are GMOs? And but those of us that have the conviction to do it, we got to do it. It's not for everybody.
Right.
Just because I have to express a feeling, that everyone does it differently. So
100%. I like that. Everybody does it differently, and it's really true. So let's talk a little bit. So going back to addiction and things like that, as parents and as friends and things like that, if we have friends who are either in recovery, or if we are noticing things about friends, especially mom friends, during this time that's being brought out as triggers, what are some ways that we can help support our friends, our mom friends and dad friends in recovery? What are some ways we can, tips for ways to talk to our friends who we maybe have a concern and we want to address it with them without scaring them off from the conversation?
So that's two pretty different questions, right? It's how to intervene and how to just be supportive. So I would say, like, the number one thing that comes to mind when we're just being supportive of someone in recovery, especially if it's early recovery, you obviously, if you go out to eat with them for a meal, you wouldn't get an alcoholic beverage. And some people say, "Well, I don't care. I don't," you don't care till it's sitting in front of you, sweating, and you might have gotten into a huge argument with your spouse, or your car crap the bed, and like, and then it looks good. So that, but really just showing up as a friend, listening, like your issues with, and this is just an example, with your employer or your husband, it's listened to the same way as someone who is stressed out and just needs to vent, right? It's not about what we're venting about. We're all going to vent about our own stuff. We have different stuff, and we just listen the same way. If you want to be a savvy friend of a person in recovery, then you'd say, like, have you gone to your, if they go to a meeting, or they go to therapy, or they have a sponsor, have you talked to your sponsor? Stuff like that. Are you still, there's a lot of online meetings. Did you notice that? And if they're a friend, you're just having a straight shooting conversation, right? You're not going to offend them.
Right.
When there's thought that there might be a lapse, a relapse, or a slip, and using the correct language to help intervene and stuff like that. It's just like, how is it going? How are things going? Have you had cravings? Have you felt tempted to pick up or have a drink? It's okay to use labels like, have you smoked? Whatever, their drug of choice.
Okay.
It's like, do you feel really stressed out? Can we go for a walk? Can we just have fun time together? Well, you can't go see a movie now, right?
I know, right?
Keeps flip-flopping, but
you could watch one in the backyard if you brought the TV with a long cord.
I know it's hard, the whole social distancing thing, but can we hang out? Do you want to hang out? And if they're up for it, they're up for it. But if they don't want to, you've done your job by being a good friend and offering support. Sometimes people don't want it and they're going to do what they're going to do no matter what. We're like a catalyst I hate the old cliche, like you can bring a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. We're not live.
They have to make their own choices.
Yeah, you're right. At the end of the day, we're all adults, and if you feel like you are a supportive friend and you participated as much as you wanted or what was a good fit for you, right? No one needs to come out of alignment and lose their boundaries and stuff because someone else might be off, right? We always want to make sure that we're engaging out of concern and not people pleasing. We want to come from an authentic place of concern, not drama, not gossiping, not right, because there's a lot of different people and lots of different friends, right? Not everyone asking questions has pure intentions.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the most important things I've learned as I've gotten older is it's important to have friendships that I can be open and honest with. And even if that means bringing something to their attention that's either upset me or I just want to have a conversation about, or a concern I have, or something going on, whatever, you have to be able, those are the friends that you can bring these things up with. And you can't be afraid to be honest. Those are real friendships, you know. Yeah. You don't hold that back, even if it's something that could cause an issue between you two. You have to just face that and say, we're going to talk through it. It's like any relationship, especially if you're married, right? When you're married, you really just, sometimes marriage is really hard. They tell us that, but it really is.
And it really does. I feel like 90% of it comes down to communication.
Yeah. And you have to not take offense to everything. Do you know what I'm saying? If someone doesn't give you the response you were expecting, or you can't take it, you say, okay, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
And all right, how do we
another thing, like not one person is going to be everything to someone, right? You can't, that's a very it's a rude expectation, right? And it's really pressuring to think that whoever it is, if it's a friend or a sister or your mate or, your partner, that they have to be your workout buddy and your Netflix buddy and your carpool buddy and your shopping buddy and your talking buddy. The last thing my husband wants to do is hear me talk about all the things I'm into. His eyes will literally glaze over.
He's like, oh.
And I know he doesn't hear anything, but sometimes I read a book and I need to regurgitate what I read so that I absorbed it, and he's just here. I have other friends that are into that stuff that I go to and we talk about that stuff, right? It's not one person to fill every single role for you. So that's important too, is to have your people for different things, right? I have my workout ladies. I have my kind of like hip hop concert going groupie friends. I have my recovery friends. I have people who aren't in recovery. My isogenics family, my church family. I mean, that's it. Like Cape Cod Church basically is like raised Kevin and I because we were kids when we started going there. I was like 23. I mean, and we've been in Pastor Ben's office. It's like the principal's office. But it takes a village. There's so many, you're right. And then our Waldorf family, we've allowed people in our lives to influence us where we feel we want to, you know, we want to be a part of this. We want to be like them. We want to grow into our future selves to look like this type of parent or this type of business owner. So you hang out with, if you want to learn karate, you hang out with Master Burke.
That's
Right?
right.
It's so many different things that just learning to be open-minded and willing to let people in and get vulnerable.
Yeah, you got to create a support network,
Yeah.
and you can pull. Like, I love how you pull from a wide variety, and I do the same. And it's important. And if you look back in human history, and we've gotten so far away from it, but we were community raisers. We wandered the earth in tribes, and everybody had a position, but people raised the children or each other. We worked together, and we've gotten so far from that in our evolution.
Right. And that might be a good reason why our mental health rates are so high, our suicide rates, our substance use starting
Yep.
at a very young age.
100%. And you look even now, this technology, as great as it is, right? Because it's allowing us to do this even tonight in the time of a global pandemic. But even this technology has taken away that camaraderie together, working together. I mean, it used to be a generational households, communities having aunts, uncles, everybody nearby, but it really was. And you're right. I bet you could probably point to a correlation between that, because our mental health, I mean, all these things have suffered.
Well, and with the rise of technology, we have disconnection from spirit, from our God, right? And source. And we forget how magical life is really supposed to be, and that we have this innate purpose, and we know it when we're kids, and then the world kind of happens, and just we have to show up to survive in the world, and we forget these gifts and talents and purpose that we were given. And it takes us a decade or two or three or four, or however many years to reconnect and find that purpose and say, yeah, I was meant to do this. I was meant to be here. All right. And then the synchronicities start showing up, and it takes it's a journey. Life is school. The whole lifetime is just a big school.
It really is. Sometimes I'm like, what is happening?
Yeah.
So, really quick, we have gotten to the partner show where we kind of surprise somebody with an act of kindness.
Yay.
And it's one of my favorite things. And people nominate different people online via a link we have. It's on our Instagram. We've shared it on our Facebook page and on our blog. And you can nominate someone in our community, fellow parent, mom, dad, sister, friend, to just someone who's done kindness to you or out into the world and who's really deserving or needs some uplifting right now. And so every week, if we have one, we try to recognize at least one. And so I'm excited because we're going to be calling a woman named Mary tonight. And we are going to be awarding her and surprising her on the air and reading it for her.
Oh, this is so fun.
So hopefully she answers. And if not, we'll leave her a message.
Okay.
And let me know if you can't hear that.
Your call has been forwarded to an automated voice messaging system.
It's okay.
5
She's
0
to bed. She goes to bed early.
8.
I know, right? I always tempt with putting this earlier, and then you run into kids' bedtimes.
At the tone, please record your message. When you
We'll
finish
surprise
recording,
her.
you may hang
They
up
always
or
text
press
me back.
1 for
She'll be
more
so
options.
happy.
Hi, Mary. This is Amy Leonardi from Cape Cod Moms, and I'm on the Parent Pod live right now on Facebook and YouTube. And I'm here with JoJo M, and we are calling to surprise you because you are this week's winner of the Random Act of Kindness. And I just want to read you the nomination that was said about you. It says, Mary has had so many challenges this year. She's dreamed of opening her own gym and put it on hold due to medical emergencies, etc. But she continues to show up and find ways to collaborate with people and keep us motivated. She is kind to everyone she meets and always looking for opportunities to help. So, Mary, you are our winner this evening. And when you get up in the morning, you just send me a text or shoot me a call or email and send me your address, and we'll get something out to you within the next week. So thanks for being awesome, Mary, and keep showing up and being amazing because you are appreciated in so many ways. Thanks. Oh,
That was so sweet.
It's my favorite thing to do every week.
Oh my gosh, that was lovely.
You know, it's nice I like to do something, it's paying it forward and recognizing there's so many people in our community that, you know, things that.
You're such a blessing, Amy, and you are a Cape celebrity.
Danielle says about you, JoJo, your words really sunk in with me. It's so important to have a support system and community. That's right, Danielle. And I hope people out there who are watching and listening know there's so many. If you go back, all of my guests who I've had on, these are all women and men who are amazingly supportive in our community. And that's what we're trying to do, is connect you to an amazing support group. And any of these moms and dads would, in a heartbeat, if you have no one out there, you could immediately connect with one of these people and they will pull you into their tribe without a second thought. Any of us would. And so you're never alone, even out on here on Cape Cod, going into the winter. I know it's tough, guys. I know how tough it is, but we got this. And there's so many of us out there, and you know, we just want to spread the love, right, JoJo?
We do. Winter is coming. Stay connected.
Coming. And you know, JoJo and I had a nice chat before we got on here, and you know, we're both in agreement. Things start with community and being supportive of one another, and that's really that's proactive change. It starts at home.
Yep.
It starts with the family unit, and the community is there to support that family unit.
Yep.
That's really what it's there for. And the more things we can do to support our parents, our caregivers, our children, the easier it is going to be as they get older and navigating whatever else is coming post 2020. Okay.
And it's so true. You know, the more we lift up and help others, everyone benefits.
Absolutely.
Right? It collectively raises everyone's energy, and we need that, the whole planet.
And the more support you have in place, when things get tough, you need that support in place to whatever is thrown at you. You know, you need those threads to be able to pull, and people will be there for you. So build those networks. Don't be afraid to do that. I'm going to give you the last word, JoJo, and I'm going to throw up the Herren Project up here for those who might have missed it earlier. It's herrenproject.org, and they have some great resources.
I mean, if you're interested in anything to do with recovery, we have lunch and learns twice a month that are on recovery-related education, psychoeducation topics. We have multiple family support online groups that are free. We have our treatment navigation program that, you know, has been up and running for many years. And we also have Herren Project clubs, which is our prevention in schools. If you are a teacher or a principal or a guidance counselor, you can look into those. And we also have Team Herren Project, which is our athletic running, spinning, swimming, whatever you do team. So there's a lot of ways to get involved. And God bless you, Amy. Thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, God bless you too. And I'm so glad and honored you were able to come on and make it work with me with your schedule. I know how busy you are. So I'm really glad we got to have you. And JoJo's going to join us again, and we're going to switch gears a little bit, but it still is along this same type of line. It's about healthy living and nutrition, and really making some smart choices. Because again, you got to be in alignment, and you got to take care of moms, dads.
Yes, self-care.
The family is only happy if mom and dad are healthy and happy. So you can't just put the life, or what is it, the oxygen mask on the child.
That's right.
Put it on yourself first. And a lot of us right now, I know I do, we need a break. I get it. It's been a long couple months. It's hard looking down the barrel right now. I'm even anxious, and but we're gonna get there.
Yes.
And lean on your supports. Reach out to myself. Reach out to JoJo. We can connect you with other people too. Thank you again, JoJo. Hang tight when I stop this. You and I will still be here. But thank you, everybody, so much. And we'll see you next week on the Parent Pod. And we have some great guests coming up. So be sure to stay tuned every night, every week, 8 p.m., YouTube and Facebook Live on Cape Cod Moms. Thank you.